Humanity. Because what people want, when people walk through those doors for the first time, they don't necessarily want to meet perfect people.
No.
It's not what they're looking for.
No.
When people walk through those doors, what they're looking for is a place where they can be accepted.
Yes.
A place where they can be loved. A place where they can be affirmed. A place where they can know that they don't have to put on airs and graces. They don't have to wear masks. They can just be authentic. Because that's what we all crave. We all crave authentic community. And that's what God created marriage and family to be, an authentic community. And if we can't get it right within the family context, we don't have our hope of getting it right in the community context. What did Jesus say? By this shall all men know that you are my disciples. How? If you have love one for another. In other words, the greatest evidence that you are my disciples is the quality of the relationship that you have with one another. There's our challenge. It's not about how many Bible texts we have in our heads, not how much we can quote scripture. It's about how we relate to one another. The depth of intimacy that we have in our marriages is in direct proportion to our willingness to open our hearts to one another. I like this quote from the Adventist home. The heart of the wife should be the grave for her husband's faults. And the heart of the husband should be the grave for his wife's faults. Yeah, wow, indeed. now, if you don't remember anything that I say from this sermon, I want you to take this away. And please remember this one, because for those of you who are married, it might save your marriage. For those of you who are planning to get married, it might save your future marriage. Most couples get married for the wrong reason. Most couples get married for the wrong reason. Just in case you fall into that category, let me disabuse your minds of a fallacy. The primary purpose of marriage is not to make you happy. The primary purpose of marriage is to make you holy. Now, don't misunderstand what I just said. Because some people hear that and they think to themselves, that means that my marriage has to be a misery. No. God wants you to be happy. In fact, we are created, the Bible tells us that we are created to experience pleasure. That's how we are. Neuroscientists tell us that our brains are wired for pleasure. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to be happy. There's nothing wrong with wanting to experience pleasure. The problem is how we experience the pleasure. And oftentimes what we are doing is we are seeking the right thing in the wrong places and in the wrong way. God wants us to be happy in our marriages. But our happiness is to be a byproduct of our holiness. Because it is wholly possible to be happy in a godless marriage. So the primary purpose of marriage is to prepare us for the kingdom. That's why I say to our young people when I'm doing premarital, make sure when you choose somebody that you choose somebody who shares your values. Choose somebody who loves God. The reason we choose to get together, the reason God allows us to come together is not always the same thing. God has a much higher purpose for marriage than we often have. And that purpose is, as I said, to prepare us for the kingdom. It is interesting that Paul, in Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 32, he quotes Genesis 2 and verse 24. Therefore shall a man leave father and mother, cleave to his wife, and shall be one flesh. But then he concludes by saying that this is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. So what Paul is doing there, he is correlating the marriage covenant with the covenant between Christ and his church. Now the standard for our relationships is high. Now the Bible sets the bar high. For example, Jesus says, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as what? As I have loved you, that you also love one another. Is that easy? Husbands. Paul says this. Husbands, love your wives. Now, I wish Paul had just put a full stop at the end of that sentence and moved on. But what Paul says is, husbands, love your wives even as Christ loved the church. Is that easy? The Bible sets the bar so high in our relationships that it is impossible for us to reach those heights without the aid of the Holy Spirit. It's impossible. But that's the way He's designed it. Because in order for marriage to work the way it is supposed to work, we have to be dependent upon the one who brought marriage together in the first place. This is not easy stuff. And here's the point, that those of us who are married, how many of us had to get married? I mean, no, we don't have to get married, do we? We get married because we choose to be married. Nobody put a gun to our heads and said, well, hopefully not. Nobody put a gun to our heads and told us you have to be married. So the point is that if we choose to be married, be married. The problem that we have with many marriages today is that there are too many married single people. Married single people are people who get married to meet their own needs. Primarily. Married single people don't get 1 Corinthians 13. Because 1 Corinthians 13 sets a high standard. Married single people just want to leave love in the realm of the warm, fuzzy feelings. But that's not love. Love is hard. Love is challenging. Love can take us to places that we don't necessarily want to go. When Jesus died on the cross, He didn't want to go to the cross. He didn't feel like going to the cross. He made a choice to go to the cross. Now, I always get the idea that I'm saying marriage is a burden. Because it's not. But it is not always easy. 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4. Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself. Is not puffed up. Does not behave rudely. Does not seek its own. Is not provoked. Thinks no evil. Does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. Bears all things. Believes all things. Hopes all things. Endures all things. Love never fails. Married single people don't get that. It is not the kind of love that you fall into or out of. It is an outworking of a principle. Love requires courage. And when we talk about courage, sometimes we immediately think about courageous acts. But the original meaning of the word courage, the root of it is the Latin word cor, from which we get words like coronary. It refers to the heart. And the original meaning of the word courage is to speak one's mind by telling one's heart. It is sharing the depth of who we are with another person. Ordinary courage is about putting our vulnerability on the line for the purpose of connection. Living courageously is about our willingness to exercise the courage to embrace our vulnerability. But many people confuse feelings with failings. They see their emotions as liabilities. My father was one of those people. One day he sat myself and my brothers down, and he said to us, told us a story about something that happened back in the West Indies, and he started to weep. And then he said to us, gave us a life lesson. He said, never tell anyone how you feel, because they will only use it against you. What kind of a life lesson is that to teach a child? And that's part of the problems that we have. We internalize that kind of teaching, and we bury our emotions, we suppress them. You know, I mentioned this, the problems that we're having in London at the moment with these stabbings. They interviewed a guy who used to be a gang member, now reformed his life. And they asked him, they asked a series of individuals who used to be in that lifestyle, if you could have a conversation with your younger self, what would you say? And one of them said, it's okay to be vulnerable. He said he would go back and teach his younger self about emotional intelligence. And it's okay to feel sadness. It's okay to feel anger. We just need to learn how to process them in a healthy way. Yes. But love requires courage. Gandhi said this. He said, a coward is incapable of exhibiting love. It is the prerogative of the brave. That's reality. You cannot love without courage. Here's a reality in terms of marriage. Again, this is from the Adventist Hub. However carefully and wisely marriage may have been entered into, few couples are completely united when the marriage ceremony is performed. The real union of the two in wedlock is the work of the after years. And if you don't believe that, ask some of the folks around here who with the wrinkles and the grey hairs, and they will tell you the truth. Marriage is the work of the after years. But the problem with many marriages in our society is that couples don't stick together long enough to experience the blessing, to go through the pain barrier and come out the other side healthy. Life will take its toll. There's going to come a time when, the hairline begins to reside, and grey frosting on the top, body parts go east, west, and south. And when that happens, you best have something more to your marriage than simple attraction. There has to be something more going on. The work of the after years. Marriage is a great revealer. Marriage is a great teacher. It teaches you about yourself. You learn much more about yourself than you ever do about your spouse. And we have to be prepared to take the introspective look. Ecclesiastes 4, verse 9, Solomon, reputedly the wisest man who ever lived, said this: two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, one will lift up his companion, but woe to him who is alone, when he falls, for he has no one to help him up. So marriage, to use it as an illustration, it involves two people supporting one another and working together as one. But Solomon goes on. Again, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one be warm alone? Successful marriage is therefore two people who insulate one another from the cold winds of strife that blow through their marriage. But he continues, though one may be overpowered by another, two can withstand him. And God will give us the strength to stand together. United, what's the phrase? Together we stand, divided we fall. But then Solomon ends with this statement. A threefold cord is not quickly broken. So he gives three examples of where two are better than one, but he concludes by saying that a threefold cord is not quickly broken. He illustrates for us that marriage is a union of three, not two. Professional rope makers know that the strongest type of rope that you can have is a 3-cord rope. 3 is stronger than 2. If you try and add a 4th, it weakens the rope. Marriage is a 3-cord rope. God is the 3rd strand who binds the marriage together. And if we as individuals grow closer to Christ, we will grow closer to each other. We will grow closer to Him. I love this statement from Ellen White. I write it in all of my wedding cards. Make Christ first and last and best in everything. Constantly behold Him, and your love for Him will daily become deeper and stronger as it is submitted to the test of trial. And as your love for Him increases, your love for one another will grow deeper and stronger. Did you catch that? As it is submitted to the test of trial. In other words, trials are necessary in order for your relationship to grow. It's the same in the spiritual realm. We cannot develop faith unless our faith is tested. In spite of all the trials, marriage is a blessing. Amen. Yeah, I would have expected all the married people in the room. You have a chance to earn some brownie points. In spite of all the trials, marriage is a blessing. I know you were just thinking this. Marriage really is a blessing. And you know, the last time I preached this sermon, or a sermon like it, I had a statistic in that I've had to remove. The statistic is this, and you may have heard this, that 1 in 2 marriages are ending in divorce. Anybody ever heard that stat? It ain't true. It's not true. Last year I attended a conference. There's a lady there called Sean T. Feldhorn who heard that stat, and she decided to do some research to find out if it was really true. She's been researching for 12 years, and what she has found is that it's a fallacy. Marriages are not, 1 in 2 marriages are not ending in divorce. There is another statistic that she researched and found that was not true. And that is that marriages in the church are failing at the same rate as marriages in the society. You heard that one? Yes. Not true. That was based on a piece of research done by an a researcher called George Barna. And what he did was he researched society in general, where people claimed to be Christian on the basis of their heritage, their backgrounds. They weren't practicing Christians. And then when he did the research, it came out that the marriage rate was the same. But when he researched individuals who actually attend church on a regular basis and have a living faith, the rate. And the upshot of this, she concluded, is that one of the problems we have with marriage is that we have a negative mindset towards marriage. And because we have a negative mindset towards marriage, we create a self-fulfilling prophecy. That if people believe, when their marriages hit the rocks, if they believe that 1 in 2 couples are going to